We take a look at our big map. Still a lot of crashes across the metro. St. Paul area is looking bad. We've got a backup in Woodbury from a jackknife semi spanning all lanes of the road this morning. So I will be up on All Day Live giving you another look at your roads, Tom, but as you step out the door, drive safely.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Lauren, thanks so much. I appreciate that. And that'll do it for us. We'll see you again tomorrow for the Fox 9 Morning News and back here at 11. Thanks for joining us. Be safe out there if you're driving around or walking. All Day starts now.
Welcome to All Day Live. I'm so glad that you're here today. It is the noon hour. For the next couple of hours, we're going to be taking you through some live events and also letting you know what's happening in the headlines. One of the things that's been developing here in the last few hours, maybe you've been looking out your window and wondering what is going on, or maybe you had to travel somewhere and somebody called you and said, what is going on? Lauren is watching the roads for us. We're going to talk to Keith in just a minute, but Lauren, we got to know what's happening on the roads right now.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. Just did a microphone quick switch. Yes, we are following roads, a kind of a sloppy situation over the last 11 a.m. hour. Here's a live look at 94 in Maple Grove at Hemlock Lane. This has been backed up for about an hour and a half now. Right around 10 a.m., 10:30, things deteriorated quickly on our roads after a batch of rain went through and left some slick spots on most of our major roadways. So we have sleet, we have wet roads, in some places we have snow-covered roads. A lot of these trucks now on the side of the road just waiting things out because those uphills and turns and ramps are causing quite a few issues. I'll give you a look to show you what is going on this ramp here at 94 and 494. Again, this is in Maple Grove, where we had several jackknife semis here blocking multiple lanes of this ramp. Now it looks like things are moving semi-quickly in the westbound direction. A couple of vehicles there on tows this morning. We've seen quite a few incidents just like that. Here's 62 in Clearwater Drive in the Eden Prairie area. You can see that bus there on the side of the road did a 180. Not sure if there were any passengers on the bus, but we did have someone else show up at the scene. Lots of law enforcement here and a tow truck as well. Taking you to 494 and 169, things are back open here. We had several semis stuck on this ramp to 169 south, but things are moving there just fine now. 94 at County Road 81. This is where we had a jackknife semi in the Rogers area. Looks like we still have traffic moving slowly in two lanes. My camera moved, so I don't have a great shot of what's going on here. The East Metro has gotten the thicker snow in the last half an hour or so. That's why we're seeing backups around St. Paul and around Woodbury. This is 94 at County Road 17B near Lake Elmo Avenue, where it's hard to see, but we do have a jackknife semi up ahead here, blocking all lanes of traffic on 94 headed west. We were just about at a standstill for about 20 minutes or so, but right now it looks like things are moving slowly. What I like about this shot is you can see we do have partially covered roads this morning with snow and with sleet, making things just, we're crawling across our highways this morning. Here's a look at your big map right now. Speeds have returned to normal on a lot of our major roadways. Crashes are getting cleaned up really quick. Those are those thumbs up that you see. But as you can see, about 24 different crashes right now. A lot of them are lane blocking crashes and a lot of them causing backups. Woodbury is the biggest one on 94. The other backup that we're following is Maple Grove to Rogers into the Albertville area along 94, backups in both directions. That's where it stands right now. The last half an hour or so, crews have been able to clean things up very quickly. But as soon as one crash clears, another one pops up. So that's how things are looking right now. I think I'm tossing over to Keith to give us a look at what's going on in the skies.
Indeed, as we are in a freeze still. Temperatures are still climbing. We have several things to do today. The first one was to warm up through our morning, which we started. We were at 16 early this morning, and then we started getting those 20s back in the 8 and the 9 o'clock hour. And then we had scheduled up, because we've needed this, our wintry mix between 9 and noon. We knew it would be brief, but we also knew that it would have a slippery impact. And we could talk about having a wintry mix, pay a brief visit. And there's the knowledge of knowing that, and then there's the experience of having it occur. a light wintry mix. It doesn't take much, as we always prove. We got a little bit of a rain, freezing rain, an icy rain, as always, put down a glaze. It switched over to a sleet, so it was about maybe 15 or 20 minutes of a light rain, very light. Glaze, and then it switched over maybe 5 or 10 minutes of a sleet. That was here in Eden Prairie. Then a break, and then some big old snow, the back of the 10 and the early part of the 11. And at that point, from this view, you couldn't see St. Paul. It was big, fat flakes. Obviously, we can see it now as it's pushed on out of the way. Temperatures in the heart of the metro still frozen in the upper 20s, but nice inroads are being made. By the back of the 12 and the early 1, we should be starting to thaw out. You can see those thawing 30s are right there. Paynesville, Hutchinson, Glencoe, 30 now in St. Cloud. Maybe our 12:30 updates will see those 30s in Buffalo and Waconia and even into St. Michael, and they keep creeping closer as that warm bubble has sent temperatures into the 40s. In Marshall, Wyndham is almost 50 right now with that bubble. We don't need the 40s. We just need some low 30s. We've got them in Wilmer at 32, 30 as I mentioned in St. Cloud, 31 now in Mankato. And those 30s will be popping up into the early to borderline mid-afternoon, and they'll be really warming up our low environment and our roadways and taking care of a lot of things. Our winter weather advisory is posted mid-morning. Technically, we don't fit the criteria for a winter weather advisory, and 1/10 of an inch of ice. We're nowhere near that. It's a glaze. But it's also National Weather Service's way of waving their hands and saying, hey, things are happening. And it was fine because things happened with all of our traffic and roadways. And as our snow continues to push down into southeastern Minnesota, because pretty much all we have now is this leading edge of some sleet and some freezing rain, but mainly just the snowflakes on the other side. It's just doing a number on those roadways in Rochester, like we saw here in the Twin Cities. Slippery spots quickly causing traffic to cause trouble, quickly hitting those roadways and causing just enough to cause those slippery spots, as there's only really 20 to 30 minutes of precipitation spread out. But all of that energy now spreading from Austin to Rochester, up through Wabasha, maybe a little bit more aggressive from Wabasha back up through Eau Claire, as you see those brighter whites there with some of that sleet mixing in with that snow itself. But it's out of the metro, been out of the metro for the West Metro for a good over an hour now. Winter weather advisories expire at 1 in the Twin Cities, expire at 3 down in southeastern Minnesota. And then we are all about breezy conditions. So we will be thawing out into the 1 and the 2 o'clock hours here in the Twin Cities, and then temperatures fall. So whatever thaw we touch is brief. And then we'll start to refreeze as the breeze picks up, and we might actually see some reasonable clearing toward the back half of the day today. And then we stay cold tonight and into the day tomorrow. Sunshine, quiet tomorrow, highs in the low 20s, and then it's all about very pleasant weather. Upper 30s on Thursday to near 40, and upper 40s as we go on into the day on Friday. So again, this was a quick event, and it's only one part of the day today. And fortunately, it's a very problematic event, and hopefully everything will be melted and moved out of the way and dried up before we are refreezing into our evening commute. Guys, back over you.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it very much. All right, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep circling back over the next couple of hours and keep you posted on what's happening out there. Things changing so quickly. One of the things we want to talk about today is something that's happening at the Capitol. Gun control, gun violence will really be kind of a center point today. And the conversations are going to involve people like Governor Walz. He was with some Democrats this morning, and they laid out a large package of bills aimed at preventing gun violence. And they'll talk about them a little bit later on this afternoon at a House Public Safety Committee today. Not the governor, but the bills will be discussed. The package is a part of a promise that the governor says that he made in the wake of the deadly shooting at Annunciation Church and School. So we wanted to show you just a clip of what the governor had to say just a short time ago.
These are things that data shows us will protect lives, will stop some of these things from happening, and will strengthen what we already have. We're under no illusion that we could stop every single one, but the idea of throwing up your hands and saying, what can we do? When America is the place that this happens most often, it happens day after day after day. There have already been dozens and dozens of mass shootings across this country since the first of the year. But we're proposing a ban on military assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, ensuring accountability among responsible gun owners. These should be easy lifts, safe storage, reporting your weapons when they're lost or stolen, closing the ghost gun loophole, implements a firearm insurance requirement, establishes a firearm and ammunition tax, and creates and expands early intervention resources, including school resources, working to go back upstream to prevent anything that happened in Annunciation to ever happen again. These are common sense measures. We've made significant progress. We know the data shows our red flag laws are saving lives. We know that these are concrete proposals that make a difference. We've proven to the rest of the world that Minnesota is built differently. And I want to make this case that this legislative session, this is an opportunity to make Minnesota the safest state around gun violence while doing nothing to impinge on your Second Amendment rights.
All right, let's take you out to the state capitol right now. Our Corin Hoggard is our Capitol reporter. And Corin, you've been covering this now for a while since we've been in session. What's happening today around this issue of gun violence?
Yeah, Amy, I want to start with what's happening right now. So I'm in the Capitol right now, and I'm at what was set up here today, which is 2 empty desks here for Harper Moisky and Fletcher Merkel, the 2 victims at Annunciation. And as you were playing that soundbite with Governor Walz, he came up and took a look at that memorial himself. So he paid tribute here to Harper and to Fletcher at this memorial, which is, their desks that should be Harper's and Fletcher's. I saw this morning, these were set up by their parents. So I walked up here, and this here is Fletcher's desk. Some of the notes he was taking. I saw Harper's parents setting this up this morning and adding daisies to it because apparently she was a big fan of daisies and she had a very bubbly personality. And so that was going on here this morning. You see that the governor's talking to some folks who are also out here seeing this tribute to Harper and Fletcher, but I want to keep moving a little bit here today. So, you were talking about the gun control package, and there are a series of bills that will be heard in that public safety committee that includes pretty much everything that the governor was proposing for a special session after the Annunciation shooting happened on August 27th. They could never get their ducks in a row to do that special session, but now they are presenting those bills. It includes a ban on so-called assault weapons. It includes a ban on high-capacity magazines, and there are a few other bills in there as well. The governor sees these as a package together, not willing at this point to kind of peel off any of the bills that would, in their minds, protect Minnesotans. They say that, they have 69% of Minnesotans who support the bills that they are pushing right now, which, like I said, the ban on so-called assault weapons and the high-capacity magazines. Now, I'm stepping outside here. It's a little cold, but it's worth it because there's another art installation. In addition to the 2 desks for Harper and Fletcher, there are 60 more desks empty and sitting outside here of the Capitol. And these represent each of the children who has died by gun violence in Minnesota since 2021. And according to this art installation, which was worked on by Annunciation families, the laws did not protect them. And so we did hear from, in addition to the governor and some of the politicians this morning, we heard from Lydia Kaiser. She's one of the victims of the Annunciation shooting who was shot in the head, but survived. And she said, these legislators, they have a duty to protect us so that nothing like what happened to me and to my classmates happens again. And so that's the message there. But, their chances of getting these bills passed in this very, very close legislature with a tied House and a 1-vote majority for the DFL in the Senate, their chances of passing these gun safety bills are relatively low, I would say. The DFLers who have authored these bills say that they have talked to Republicans. They don't see any support at this point, but they're hoping that, somebody will change their mind, and that way they can, pass a bill like this.
All right. Thank you, Corin. Appreciate that. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to be talking with Fox 9 political contributor as well, Blois Olson, and definitely talking about some of the things you just brought up, which is the makeup of the House and the Senate and the special session that didn't ever get off the ground. A lot to talk about there. So we'll continue that conversation in just a bit, coming up here in about 15 minutes. Another thing we wanted to show you that has been happening at the Capitol this morning, it was a House Judiciary Judiciary Committee hearing on the state of civil rights in Minnesota, and that committee is considering some legislation that would essentially strengthen civil rights and provide, I guess, remedy solutions for violations. So they heard some testimony from the ACLU, the Immigration Law Center of Minnesota, outlining why they feel that this action needs to happen quickly. So we've cut a chunk of that from this hearing that just happened a short time ago. Let's play that for you.
For this committee, I want to make sure I highlight a couple key points. First and foremost, it's important to understand that immigration courts are not part of the federal judiciary, but are instead housed within the Department of Justice, which is an executive agency in what's called the Executive Office for Immigration Review. Second, while people in immigration court proceedings have a right to an attorney is not provided to them by the government as it would be in a criminal court proceeding if they cannot afford to pay for one. So if they are not able to afford an attorney, it is very likely they will have to proceed pro se, despite the often life and death implications of deportation proceedings. In the operation in Minnesota, we have often seen people sent to detention facilities in other states, sometimes within hours. Family, friends, and even lawyers who are on record of representing these people can't find them because the government's own online locator isn't being updated. People have been and are effectively disappearing. We raise these issues in the context of the immigration system and the most recent operation that is purportedly coming to an end in Minnesota. For our part at ILCM, we want to emphasize the extreme harm that has been and continues to be inflicted on Minnesota's immigrant and refugee communities. At the same time, and as you will hear, we want to note that these are also attacks on constitutional underpinnings, on bedrock constitutional principles. And as such, they have implications for all Minnesotans, citizen and non-citizen alike. We also want to emphasize that while this has been and continues to be an extremely critical time for our immigrant and refugee communities, this kind of disregard for humanity, this kind of dehumanization, people disappearing from the locator for hours and days at a time, shackles on people in detention centers and on planes, children in detention centers. For many immigration lawyers, this is not new. We have been confronting this for years and even decades across multiple administrations. This crisis did not happen overnight. It could not happen overnight. Thank you.
All right, we want to catch you up on a few other headlines here before we take a quick break. One is following up on a deadly series of events in Minneapolis and then in Brooklyn Center. This was late yesterday afternoon. Minneapolis police say that a 24-year-old man was released from jail yesterday afternoon after making bail on a gun possession and fleeing police case. They say that just a few hours later, that man went into a home on Irving and 42nd Avenue in Minneapolis, and they say he shot his two cousins to death. One was 14, the other was 23. And the grandmother who was there told police that there were several other children in that home at the time, and they are not injured. Then a short time later, in a busy retail area of Brooklyn Center, police reportedly shot a man that they believe is the suspect in that North Minneapolis, in those shootings. They say that he was waving a handgun, again, a busy retail area in kind of an intersection. And then police say that that man was shot after exchanging gunfire with officers and then taken to a hospital where he later died. So right now we have the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension investigating. Those officers in those cases have been placed on standard leave. We'll continue to follow that. Our Karen Scullin is following up today, and we'll check with her in just a little bit, I think, next hour. One more really quickly here. We just wanted to catch you up on the very latest in Mexico. A couple of updates here. Let me get to this. All right. Most airports, we're told, are operating normally now in Mexico. U.S. State Department has actually narrowed its shelter-in-place advisory, so things seemingly starting to settle down a little bit. U.S. citizens in specifically Puerto Vallarta and those surrounding areas in cities like Jalisco and Nayarit are still being encouraged to remain in place because there's some roadblocks, criminal activity, the Mexican military says, and of course this is related to a military raid that killed a cartel leader. over the weekend. The Mexican government saying that, again, the situation, they're calling it, has returned to normal in most areas, airlines resuming operations. In fact, we did see that Sun Country is sending a couple of planes to Puerto Vallarta today to get some people back home. And then I just checked Delta's website, and there was a flight that left MSP this morning at 9:21, scheduled to arrive in Puerto Vallarta here shortly at about 1:15. And then there's a return flight back to MSP leaving around 3 o'clock, leaving Mexico about 3 o'clock today. So we'll keep you updated on all of that. But it looks like, according to the Mexican government, things are starting to settle down just a little bit more. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on All Day Live. When we come back, we're going to check the roads again because, as you know, if you've been looking out the window, conditions have changed. Rain, there was snow, and there's some dicey spots on the roads. We got to talk State of the Union. That's happening tonight. A lot of local ties to that. All of that and much more coming up here on All Day Live. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to All Day Live. One of the things that we are watching here as we started in the noon hour, you saw our Lauren Andrego, as she's been watching some really dicey spots on the roads, especially in 494. There's been a closure, Fish Lake split in Maple Grove. Ryan, we're taking a look here at 94 and in kind of the Lake Elmo area.
Yeah, this is right on the border of Lake Elmo and Woodbury. This is 94, so it looks like traffic's moving along pretty normally here, but you can tell roads are slick and possibly slippery at times. Chris, if we want to jump over to the 511 map here from MnDOT, you know, you can see on here a lot of warning signs. There's been a lot of crashes across the metro here. The good news is I've seen a lot of these streets that were mostly covered in snow or slush or partially cover are starting to change over. So it looks as if conditions are improving a little bit, but still pretty slick out there, Amy, and take it slow.
I think the kind of really important to note here is the road close at 94. So I-94, if you go over, let's see, between exit 215 Weaver Lake Road and 494. The road is closed because of a jackknife semi. It looks like until, they're saying 2 o'clock this afternoon. A 17-minute expected delay in that area. But just know that if you see, where the big, I don't know if we can click on that red.
Yeah, so this is right here. We're
Yep.
in Maple Grove, where 494, 94, 694 all kind of converge.
Yeah, so just know that that is closed. That's going to cause a big problem for folks if you're not expecting it. So just, might want to find another way to get around or let people know.
You can
All
see
right.
here MnDOT is saying expect at least a 17-minute delay, as you can see some of the pictures here. There's a look at what that backup looks like in Maple Grove there. So,
Yep, looking at Brooklyn Center as well, it looks like there's a crash there. Boone Avenue and 169, look out for a crash there. So if you go on 511, it's 511mn.org. It's a really great tool, pretty real time, that'll tell you, because I don't think, a lot of us were expecting to see something like this happening here in the middle of the afternoon. It could throw a loop into your plan, so be aware of that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the State of the Union tonight. Of course, President Trump will be giving his address tonight. The only thing we've sort of heard is he characterized it, I think yesterday, he said it's going to be long, is the way that he put it. We know a little bit more about some of the guests. We told you yesterday, the son of the late House Speaker, Emerita Melissa Hortman, and of course Mark Hortman, her husband, will be the guests, Colin will be the guests of Democratic Representatives Betty McCollum and Kelly Morrison. So it's Colin Hortman and his wife. And then Representative Ilhan Omar is bringing 4 people with her tonight that she says will highlight the impact of ICE operations in Minnesota. Republican House Majority Whip Tom Emmer is bringing 2 people. He says he calls them great leaders in our community. One is the Blaine police chief, another a local businessman from Blaine Brothers. And then Republican Representative Pete Stauber is bringing conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley and David Hoke. So they will all be there. I know that I believe Corin Hoggard is going to be interviewing, if he hasn't already, Colin Hortman. And then later this afternoon, I have a Zoom interview lined up with Tom Emmer and the folks that he's bringing tonight as well. So you can look for those later on in our newscast. We also have heard already this morning from local Minnesota Democrats and Republicans ahead of tonight's speech. So we clipped a couple of sound bites for you here. We'll start with the Democrats, and then we're going to hear from Republican Congressman Tom Emmer.
Tonight, Donald Trump will deliver the State of the Union. We know his speech will be full of lies about how our nation is thriving under his leadership. We know that it is BS. Our constituents are facing economic ruin because of his policies. American families are hiding because Trump's masked goons are roaming the streets looking for people of color. American businesses are suffering from unlawful tariffs and sky-high prices. Donald Trump funnels billions into his family's businesses and is shaking down his own government for $10 billion. Americans can't afford health care. They can't afford rent. They are weighted down by the mountains of student loan debt. The pedophile protection party in chief has instructed his Justice Department to cover up the Epstein file. So far, only half of the Epstein files have been released. No additional prosecutions have been announced, and our FBI director is partying it up in Italy on taxpayer dime. The truth about the State of the Union is this: our country is on life support, and the American people are the ones paying the price. Minnesotans are here today to continue to shine a light on what is actually happening and continues to happen in our state.
President Trump surged into Minnesota, hoping to make Minnesota be the poster child for the numbers of thousands of people he wanted detained every day. But when he came to Minnesota, he found out a lot of the people, black and brown, as my colleagues have pointed out, either had protected status, were going through the right way and to become a citizen and to work in the state, or they were citizens or first generation. And so it all went wrong for him. And the brutality of it was all recorded, as my colleagues have pointed out. So we just said, They have enough money to operate. I'm on the Appropriations Committee, Homeland Security for the ICE and Border Patrol, for the next 5 to 7 years. They don't need any money. This is our opportunity to say, you know what? They need to behave like the professionals we expect from law enforcement, from our local law enforcement. This was our opportunity to do that. And the president didn't want to do that. And he made it really clear to me this weekend when he said that they were going to cut off the pre-check for at the airport. That was sheer bullying. You know what? He thought that would make all of us run back here and say, we don't care for any reforms. You don't have to identify yourself. You can assault people. Nobody's going to be held accountable. It didn't work because the American people are on to him that he is a bully. And so him and Kristi Noem had to walk that back right away. They're going to try time and time and time again. But my vote is going to be to protect the citizens, the residents, the visitors here, not only in my state, but around the country, from people who are acting illegally and unconstitutionally by detaining people and physically harming them. And in the case of Minnesota and other places around the country, seeing them not be able to go back and have dinner with their family because they were killed.
Independent voters 100% believe that Trump's tactics, Kristi Noem's tactics, and ICE in Minnesota went way too far. And so I think when you look at a 26% approval rating nationally for President Trump, he is coming into the people's house in the weakest state he has ever been in all of the excruciating years that we have had to endure his presidency. And why that is because he hasn't made affordability better in this country. Farm bankruptcies are up 46% across this nation. Voters, independent voters, have seen the brutality of Trump and Kristi Noem's ICE. And so 100%, I think, he's going to have to face the people of this country. This is the people's house. He's going to have to face us tonight.
The State of the Union is only as strong as the state of its people. And under President Trump and Republican majorities in Congress, the American people are stronger than ever. Stronger because President Trump and Republicans have secured the border, restored safety to our communities, slashed wasteful government spending, and held fraudsters accountable, and delivered historic tax relief to hardworking Americans through the Working Families Tax Cut. As the 2026 tax season begins to unfold, we're hearing more and more about how this once-in-a-generation piece of legislation is benefiting Americans from every walk of life. Families are keeping more of their hard-earned money in their pockets. We're talking refunds increased by $1,000 or more on average, according to financial experts. To highlight just how impactful these tax cuts are, I'm honored to be welcoming two Minnesotans to the Capitol today for President Trump's State of the Union address. I want to thank Blaine Police Chief Brian Padani for joining us here this morning, standing behind me. For Chief Padani and the police force he oversees, no tax on overtime is a game changer. Not only will this provision allow our men and women in blue to keep more of their hard-earned dollars in their pockets, it's also going to help Chief Padani with recruitment and retention, making our communities stronger and safer. Blaine Brothers Board Chairman Dean Daly will also be joining us later today to highlight how provisions like the 100% immediate full expensing are allowing small, family-owned businesses like Blaine Brothers to grow. The benefits of this once-in-a-generation tax bill reach far and wide. While monumental in its impact, tax relief is only part of President Trump's successful economic agenda. The president inherited an utterly broken economy and has spent the past 13 months putting the train back on the tracks. Inflation continues to cool, as Lisa talked about. Wages are up. Prices at the gas pump are down to record lows. By nearly every measure, Republicans' economic agenda has delivered real financial freedom for the American people. Freedom to buy a home, freedom to start a business, freedom to grow your family, freedom to pursue the happiness our nation's founders recognized as a God-given right. And it's only been 13 months. Thanks to President Trump, the State of the Union is strong and getting even stronger. Again, I want to thank Chief Badani and Mr. Daley for making the trek to Washington, even in what some would call inclement weather. Not really for us from Minnesota, or Michigan, by the way. These two leaders from the largest city in my district represent the best of Minnesota and put on full display how real Americans are benefiting from Republican leadership here in Washington.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, really quickly, it'll be just a couple of minutes. Stay with us because Fox 9 political analyst Blois Olson is here, and he's going to walk us through some of what's happening at the legislature right now. Stay with us.
Vibes.
All right, welcome back to All Day Live. As you know, there's been a push to take up gun control legislation in the wake of the Annunciation shooting last August. Governor Walz, some other Democratic leaders actually unveiled a comprehensive gun violence prevention package this morning that they say is aimed at protecting the health, safety, and well-being of Minnesotans. And there's going to be a House committee hearing later today, proposed bans on high-capacity magazines and assault weapons. Joining me now is Blois Olson, Fox 9 political analyst and founder of Fluence Media. Thanks so much for being with us again, Blois.
Happy to be here.
Let's talk about the background, I guess, first of all. Coming out of the tragedy at Annunciation in August, there were a lot of emotions, a very strong push for more gun control. Walk us through what happened sort of late summer into the fall with lawmakers.
Well, I mean, we have a tie in the House, so let's just start there. And not all Democratic senators wanted to vote on some of the proposals that Governor Walz wanted them to vote on. And Governor Walz came out fast and furious and said, we're going to have a special session, we're going to pass some laws. But he quickly learned that he didn't have the votes. And if you don't have the votes, you would be considered defeated if you put up a bill and it went down. That would have made the issue go away because the political will wasn't there. And so he regrouped, he stepped back, he announced his reelection, he announced he's not running again, and now this is one of, I think, the legacy issues that he wants to focus on. But he's still got a lot of headwinds in his face if he thinks most of this is going to get past the legislature.
Okay. Negotiations, obviously, you're gonna come out strong. The DFL is laying out some very firm ban assault weapons, ban high capacity magazines. Is there room in there at all when you say they don't have the votes? I mean, is there enough room to even compromise on anything, or do you think that it's going to look like this, and if it's not that, it's baby out with the bathwater?
You don't want to focus on process because talking about process is boring. But if Democrats could get this to the House floor, then they would force a vote by Republicans. But the Speaker controls the floor, and the Republicans have the Speaker. So in the House, it's not going to be there. I think there is going to be some sort of vote in the Senate. They're going to have to make sure they have all the Democratic votes because it's a 34-33 majority there. I do think there could be a Republican or two that might peel off in the Senate should there be a forced vote. But really, the other piece here is they want legislators on the record so that that direct mail or that digital ad you see this fall says Representative so-and-so voted against protecting our kids from guns, voted against high, volume magazines, things like that. So there's twofold. One is Walz wants this part of his legacy, and two, they want to use it in political ads this fall.
We also saw, Blois, mayors of several cities get together and say, just legislature, give us the ability to make this call for our own cities. Is that going to go anywhere, do you think?
I think that's probably not going to go anywhere. The patchwork of laws, city to city. And I do think, look, I'm not a gun owner. I think that there are too many guns. I don't think you need an assault weapon to hunt. But the Second Amendment is strong. But what I also want to say is there's a pragmatic side to this. Just because a city passes an ordinance doesn't mean that's going to change the way in which a criminal or somebody with a major mental health issue, processes these things. So I know they want to do it, but is it really going to do anything? I think that's the challenge that that the elected officials have to get their head around.
And along those lines, we know that the Republicans have said, let's push for more money for school security, mental health resources. What about that side of things? Do you think that they will make progress there, or are DFLers just going to say, you guys, you left us out in the cold with this, why should we help you? As politics goes sometimes on both sides, right?
Similar to why Democrats want Republicans to vote on gun control, Republicans want Democrats to vote on school safety and security and mental health funding because they can use it at the ballot box. But the reality is, we clearly do need the resources for our schools. You look at some of the lapses in school security that people have pointed out, not that anything has happened, but that something could have happened. I think that begins to be kind of the narrative Republicans want to push. The challenge with that is we just don't have a lot of resources. The budget forecast is this Friday, so any new money would be tough to come up with. The compromise position would be somehow the ammunition tax that Governor Walz is proposing, that money gets funded to school security and vice versa. Maybe that's the compromise.
I wanted to ask you too, so this happened in August, and since then, there's just been so much that's happened within our communities here. If this session would have started closer to this summer, do you think that would have made any difference?
I think it would have been a little bit different discussion, but the math of the votes is not deniable. And it'd be a challenge for me to say that the people would have voted different in September or October than they're going to vote in February or March.
And then as it relates to gun violence, I guess, we're talking a lot about, obviously, Annunciation, but also if we, to even parse out even more of what's the tragedies that have happened here in Minnesota, when you go back to June, and you talk about these lawmakers who were murdered and also their attempted murder, how are they kind of getting their brains around all of that? Because on the one hand, that hits closer to home probably for them than anything could. Am I right?
Well, it certainly has changed the mindset for every lawmaker, Democrat or Republican. And so I think they're all much more conscious of their safety. There's new Capitol security. They want resources to be able to pay for their own security, which you can't blame any of them. So I think that is part of their mindset. But, Amy, we got to just be frank. This this gun divide and gun debate doesn't move that much very often. And even for legislators, that probably isn't going to change their mind on a gun legislation. Now, it may change their mind on a bill like impersonating a police officer and moving that from a misdemeanor to a felony, things like that. But those would seem to be things that you could get behind whether or not you had a tragedy or not.
All right. Blaise, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, same.
Take care. All right, All Day Live will be right back after this quick break. We're keeping an eye on those roads too, you guys. Closures. The roads got slippery in some parts. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Ryan and I are just looking at the 511 map here, studying it, just trying to see where we're at with the crashes in the metro. If you have been out on the roads, you've been looking out your window, things changed a few hours ago, and we're specifically keeping an eye on the Maple Grove area. The area around on 494, the area we're showing you up there has been closed, and it looks like, I don't want to misspeak, but it looks like it might be back open.
Yeah.
But Ryan, as we're seeing, there's a purple exclamation mark there.
Yeah, that's just indicating the crash. But earlier there was a warning of sort from MnDOT saying that road was closed. So I think that road is open and that crash has been cleared right now, but still caution. We're going to try and pull up a camera here to confirm that here. Chris, bear with me for 1 second. If you want to go, let's take a look at that Woodbury camera right now. This was another area we were talking about, 94 and County Road 17B. This is the Woodbury and Lake Elmo stretch here. As we're looking at traffic, you can see we're still talking about some slush on roadways. It doesn't look like there's a lot of cars on the road, but that's what we're looking at here in the East Metro.
Okay, and then I am just looking up, just up the road here. If you are headed, say, to the Fargo-Moorhead area, it looks like U.S. Highway 10 in both directions is closed. That's because of construction work. So I'm just looking to see if there's any other spots. Let's see, bridge closures. I don't see any other spots where we're seeing any more closures. So hopefully that area, I know they were saying Maple Grove would be opened up by 2, so hopefully that looks like they've opened up early. However, just as Ryan noted, there is a crash right there that they're looking at between Hemlock Lane and exit 215 Weaver Lake Road on 94. So there are some more delays. Looks like
and here is that live lookout in Maple Grove here, as we see that 94 is moving along slowly here. Looks like there's a semi on the side of the road here. I don't know if that was involved in that earlier crash, but it just looks like a slow moving I-94 here heading out of Maple Grove and heading towards westbound towards Monticello, Albertville.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have a live event at the Capitol that we want to dip into here?
We do. This is a hearing that's going on, a Senate Housing and Homelessness Prevention Committee hearing, and right now they are talking about various proposals to prevent an eviction crisis. So let's just kind of listen in here and hear what they have to say.
I'm so frustrated for the people in our community, for the people in my community who've stepped up, who've done so much work to take care of their neighbors, to show up for each other, and I think in this body, we ought to do more. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Senator Gruenhagen. However, I just want to say after that, I'm going to move us to our agenda for the day, because we do have items that we want to get through. If we need to come back to this conversation, either at the end of our time today or at a future hearing, we can certainly do that as well. Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would just add the perspective that, I understand the human side of it that was just shared here by Senator Fateh Mohammed. I'm sorry.
I had no idea Senator Fateh and I looked alike. That's crazy.
I didn't mean that. I just got that mixed up in my mind. So, but I would just say, if you're going to delay the removing a non-paying tenant, then the least you should do is alleviate expenses for the landlord. In other words, I think it's a two-tier system. In other words, it's not just, okay, if you want to put a moratorium on the delay of the eviction, then the least you should do is help out the landlord in terms of his expenses during that period of time. Otherwise, I think what Senator Lucero said is true. Everybody else pays a higher rent. So I'm just giving that for information. The other thing I'd say, last meeting we had the lawful amendment that was defeated, and I do think we get some federal funding in this for housing in this committee, and I think with the current administration, you are endangering that funding or delaying it if we allow that funding to be used, federal funding to be used for illegal immigrants. And I wish that we could reconsider that amendment at some point to make sure that we don't endanger any federal funding that we can use as far as housing is concerned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, members, I'm going to move us from this discussion, thank you for that, to our next item of business. So next on our agenda, we will have a presentation on the state of housing in Minnesota from Ann Mavity, Executive Director of the Minnesota Housing Partnership. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Mavity. Please begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Bolden, and members of the committee. I wanted to, my name is Ann Mavity. I'm Executive Director of Minnesota Housing Partnership. I'm here with my colleague, Courtney Sheff, who will be running the slideshow that we'll walk through today. I'm honored to be with you here today. The first thing I want to go through, here we go, thank you. Hang on one second, can you take that off? So what we know today I'm going to go through a lot of slides, although I'm not going to go through every slide that you have in your packet, but I wanted to provide you a lot of base and source information that will help inform and guide the proposals that will be in front of you to evaluate and review this session. Minnesota Housing Partnership drives innovative housing solutions through original research. We guide community development work across Minnesota and across the country, and we advocate for policies that ensure that everyone has a home in Minnesota. And does that go forward? Sorry, a little technical difficulty here. I'm going to go over 3 areas with you today as we look at housing. There's 3 key pieces, sort of context to keep in mind. 1, we don't have enough homes for everyone in Minnesota who needs them. 2, people are paying more for their housing than they can afford across Minnesota, and that's an ineffective, inefficient, very costly result. And in Minnesota, we don't have enough resources for everyone that needs it. So really, we need more housing of every type in every corner of the state. Now, many of you have seen this slide before. We have underproduced housing for a long time, and we need to do catch-up production because we don't have enough homes. In fact, we're 100,000 homes short. This particular slide is from the St. Louis, Missouri Federal Reserve looking at Minnesota building permits. It's a leading indicator to say where are we headed, and what we're seeing on building permits is that they are going down. It's a downward trend, which means that we're not going to have more supply coming online, and certainly not enough to do that catch up and fill that 100,000 home gap. Similarly, there's other data that shows that supply will drop precipitously over the next several years if we don't do more work. And we have worked hard in Minnesota to have housing goals. So back in 2018, Senator Draheim, many of you were on the State Housing Task Force that set this goal of 300,000 new homes by 2030. So we have those goals. We're not on track to accomplish them, but we put in motion that that's where we need to be. And in fact, the Met Council also has goals for the 7-county area. For the 10-year period ending in 2020, the Met Council had goals of 36,000 new homes. And unfortunately, in that 10-year period, only 16,000 new homes were created. And that number is the aggregation of all the cities within that Met Council footprint. And that means that we were 20,000 short of that goal. So we have a long way to go. And of course, part of what that means as well is that we're looking at a system, land use and zoning, all the processes that help create supply that are not getting the outcomes that we need. So
Madam Chair?
Yep. Oh, Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just had a quick question. So before you move on the slide, you were talking about the number of homes and specifically the permits, the permit applications have decreased. Can you clarify, are you talking about homes or units? So in other words, does that number include for permit application decline? Is that including units for apartments, or are you just talking single family homes?
Not just, when I say, oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator, when we talk about homes, we're talking about both rental homes as well as single-family homes and home ownership. So it's inclusive of both. Oftentimes, what you'll see in the building permits, there might be one permit for an apartment building, but that also, of course, that'll have.
All right, we're going to dip out of this and take a quick break. When we come back, our second hour of All Day Live, more live events. We're going to take you back to the Capitol, and also we're keeping an eye on these slick roads that, for some of us, feel like they kind of popped out of nowhere. But places like Maple Grove, you really want to watch where you're driving, watch your speeds, because there are some crashes. We'll be right back. Welcome back to All Day Live. Let's just take you right back out on the roads because this has been the story for the last hour or so. We have 94 Weaver Lake Road. So this is going to be in the Maple Grove area. At one point, we had a portion of 94 shut down. There have been some crashes, slick roads, and that looks like it is now moving quickly. They thought it would take until 2. So this is good news for folks there. And then if we take a look at the 511 map quickly, we can also see, yeah, things look a lot better. It's 511mn.org. If you are heading out into the metro anywhere and you want to know how things are looking, they thought, again, around this time into 2, things should start to melt off again and get better. But it was dicey there for a while. All right, we want to just kind of check on the weather really quickly because that was part of the issue. Late this morning as we were getting ready for the show, we all looked outside and said, wait, it's raining. And then we said, wait, it's snowing. And then all of a sudden started to see the crashes coming in. So let's check in with meteorologist Keith Marler with the very latest.
Well, what a little mess a little bit of light mix can make. Wintry potpourri is never any fun, even very little of it, as we've had a bit of rain, freezing rain, sleet, and a little light snow roll through the metro area right on time between 9 and noon this morning. Temperatures, though, climbing all the way from the teens early this morning through the 20s, bearing the back of the morning commute, through the 20s, frozen, for that icy mix, causing all sorts of travel issues and traffic problems for the middle to late part of the morning hours. And now that we're in the afternoon, temperatures are starting to thaw or thawing already, depending on your location. And that's making a big difference on our roadways as we commit to that thaw heading into the afternoon, mid-30s as we go into these next couple of hours or so. Low to mid-30s in the metro, a lot of folks in the mid-30s, but it's short-lived as we try to dry out as quickly as possible because we're about to go back down again. So whether you're capping out at a 32 or a 33 or a 35 or 36, the breezes pick up and we're on our way back down again shortly. And those temperatures will refreeze as we go back after 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon with a blustery breeze out of the northwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting a little higher than that. So again, icy mix behind us, thaw occurring, and now we start to refreeze again into tonight as we go down to 11. Chilly day tomorrow, sunshine at 22 degrees, but relatively quiet, less of a breeze. Beautiful day on Thursday, sunshine and a high in the upper 30s. Friday is the keeper, though, mid to upper 40s for highs with sunshine. Then back into the icebox we go for the weekend, saying goodbye to February with a high of 24 and hello March. Below average as well with those low to mid 20s. We do go back into next week, though, returning to seasonable temperatures in the low 30s by Monday of next week.
All right. Thank you, Keith. We want to roll through some of the headlines and the stories that we are following. In just a minute here, Karen Scullin is going to join us to talk about the follow-up of a deadly series of events that happened yesterday in Minneapolis and then in Brooklyn Center. This started developing, broke just in about the 4 o'clock hour yesterday afternoon. And we were out there live trying to figure out, put together the pieces. And Karen's just continuing those efforts today, and we'll let you know what she's been able to uncover. So we'll tell you about that. A couple other headlines, though, in the meantime. Google, as some of you may know, is teaming up with Xcel Energy now to build a data center in Pine Island, which is about 20 miles north of Rochester. So we've known about this idea of this Pine Island data center. Google is saying that it will be responsible for all electricity costs, and a lot of people know that these are large-scale projects, and there's a lot of concern over potential strain on the electrical grid when it comes to these data centers. Well, today, we found out that Xcel Energy will be the one powering that Pine Island data center. Sometimes you hear about these, and the data center itself said we're going to provide our own electricity. We'll have our own system in place. In this case, it looks like Xcel is going to be providing that. They had a press release that they put out here just a short time ago where they say that Xcel customers will not be impacted. They'll make sure of that, and that service for everybody else, the customers, will remain reliable. They say that the partnership between Google and Xcel will also bring 1,900 megawatts of clean energy to the grid. Again, that's according to Xcel. So not a done deal yet. The agreement is going to be filed for review. It has to go before the Public Utilities Commission here in Minnesota, and then they still have to formally approve that project. But we don't have enough hours in the show to cover the data center issues that have been popping up. We covered one way up north in St. Louis County a couple months back, and you could do a deep dive into all of these, and there's just so many layers to this. But that is one of the newer developments today that Xcel customers may be interested in hearing. A couple other things. Say that one more time, Ryan. Okay, all right. Let's do this. Let's take you here. At the Capitol today, we took you out there a little bit earlier. Maybe you saw our corn hoggard out there. There's an installation that we'll talk about here in a minute of empty desks to represent the children who've been killed by gun violence in the U.S. So these conversations around guns will be really front and center at the Capitol today. Governor Walz and other Democrats got together this morning and they laid out a large package of bills that are aimed at preventing gun violence. And we wanted to play you a part of what that group had to say this morning.
These are things that data shows us will protect lives. Will stop some of these things from happening and will strengthen what we already have. We're under no illusion that we could stop every single one. But the idea of throwing up your hands and saying, what can we do? When America is the place that this happens most often, it happens day after day after day. There have already been dozens and dozens of mass shootings across this country since the first of the year. But we're proposing a ban on military assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, ensuring accountability among responsible gun owners. These should be easy lifts, safe storage, reporting your weapons when they're lost or stolen, closing the ghost gun loophole, implements a firearm insurance requirement, establishes a firearm and ammunition tax, and creates and expands early intervention resources, including school resources, working to go back upstream to prevent anything that happened in Annunciation to ever happen again. These are common sense measures. We've made significant progress. We know the data shows our red flag laws are saving lives. We know that these are concrete proposals that make a difference. We've proven to the rest of the world that Minnesota is built differently. And I want to make this case that this legislative session, this is an opportunity to make Minnesota the safest state around gun violence while doing nothing to impinge on your Second Amendment rights. So this is shaping up to going to be a pretty big, heavy storm coming down around issues like this and safety. And I think now is the time for folks to get right with it. And I say that as someone who evolved on this issue and moved along as our country moved. So it can be done once you start to see it. And I bring it up, and First Lady and I talked about setting in my office with the Sandy Hook parents. And so we'll get it.
Minnesotans are in the streets, and they are singing, "It's okay to change your mind."
Yeah.
Right? Come together. And they are seeing this throughout the city and throughout this state. And that applies to a whole lot of things, including this issue. So we invite people to join us in this effort to change their minds, to come together, to build the Minnesota that we know people want and understand, and protect our children, just like we've always done. So the question is, we know what we're going to do. The others have to decide what they're going to do, and I'd invite them to walk in the streets and hear that beautiful anthem throughout Minnesota. It's okay to change your mind. Right? And come with us, join with us. This is important work to do for the children and the future of our state.
All right, and as it relates to that, we want to take you out to the Capitol, where there is a large display outside today. It'll be there for the next couple of days. There are 60 desks representing the more than 200 children killed by gun violence in the U.S. in the past 5 years. And two of the desks you don't see here are actually inside the Capitol. They are honoring 10-year-old Harper Moisky and 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel, the two children who were killed on August 27th in that Annunciation shooting. So this empty desk installation was put together by some parents from Annunciation, and again, it'll be on display for the next couple of days as gun control, gun violence really at the center of a lot of discussions in committees today. We want to now take you to the Capitol again, because there is a hearing that we want to listen in on. It is the House Education Finance Committee. And what they're talking about right now is funding for school safety. Some bills being proposed today that would give more money, they say, for safer schools, that money available for charter schools, non-public schools, and tribal contract schools as well. So I believe this is just getting underway. Let's listen in.
Try it again. Try again. Superintendent Olson, we're going to try it again. Bemidji's not that far. If he talks very loudly, we might hear him.
Mic check. Mic check.
All right, don't know if you were able to hear anything or not. If you weren't, it's not your TV. I don't think there's any. Oh, guys, can we hear this now? I wasn't able to hear it earlier.
What Representative Duran offered us.
Let's go back.
Chair Krisha, members, House File 3492 is a grant program funded with state aid. There's $25 million appropriated for the program coming from the state general fund. That's accompanied by a reduction in $25 million from the 2023 appropriation for the Northern Lights Express train between Minneapolis and Duluth. That's where the funding comes from. For the bill itself, individual grants are of up to $500,000 each, with the grant process going through the Department of Education. And with those grants, the available recipients for the grants, as the author mentioned, include school districts, charter schools, the cooperative units serving students, tribal contract schools, or non-public schools. So in a nutshell, Mr. Chair, that's what's in the bill. $25 million appropriated at a tracking cost in total of zero, but with the offset. But that would be a Ways and Means decision, obviously, with the grants of up to $500,000.
Thank you, Mr. Strom.
Yes.
And we'll wait one more seat. We'll see if we can get this, and then we can go to member questions. I can come back to testifiers if I need to. But okay, Superintendent Olson. How about the other testifier? Either one of them. We can't hear. Casey Ryerson to the testifier. If you're available, we're going to try you next.
Can you guys hear me?
There we go. Welcome.
Perfect.
Oh.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I'm Casey Ryerson.
And Mr. Ryerson, I believe we have images, but check your mute, please.
So I am unmuted.
Okay. At this, we believe it's on our side at this point.
Okay.
It's like I'm up to the speakers, but I can't hear.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Oh, and guys, I have mixed finance again. We're going to take a quick break. Audio issues all around for everybody today. You'd think after COVID we'd all have this figured out, but not so much. Taking a break. We'll be right back. Much more to come here on All Day Live. We're glad that you're with us today. All right, welcome back to All Day Live, everybody. Let me turn that down. And so in control room, I'm just hearing a lot of music. So thank you, thank you. Oh, now I've got X minus. Welcome to the studio, everybody. If you haven't noticed, we are in some new digs. I'm just going to take this out, guys, for a second. Some new digs here as there's some construction going on, which is a very good thing because that means that we're going to have some new digs in a few months, a new place to do All Day Live, which we're really excited about. It's still in the newsroom, but it's going to be a little bit different. So we're excited to unveil that for you here in a few months. But until then, we are sharing Studio 9. It's a little bit of a different feel, a different vibe, and clearly we're still working out some of the bugs. So thank you for your patience. We still have a lot to get to here in the next 40 minutes with you, taking you up to 2 o'clock as we continue to follow live events and some of the things that are happening, including some of the national stories that we have also been following, including this one. Obviously, the story of Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy, being missing has really just captivated the country, and people have been following along now as we enter week 4 of her being missing. Well, today, Savannah Guthrie posted this morning, and the family has raised that reward to $1 million for the person or persons who brings their mother, Nancy, home. So let's listen to some of that.
Hi there. Coming on to say it is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. And every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony since then of worrying about her and fearing for her and aching for her. And most of all, just missing her, We know that millions of you have been praying. So many people have been praying of every faith and no faith at all, praying for her return. And we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. Hope against hope. As my sister says, we are blowing on the embers of hope. We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone. She may have already gone home to the Lord that she loves and is dancing in heaven with her mom and her dad and with her beloved brother Pierce and with our daddy. And if this is what is to be, then we will accept it. But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward of up to $1 million for any information that leads us to her recovery. All of the information about this reward and the details is in the caption below. You can call the 1-800-TIP line. You can be anonymous if you want. Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. Somebody knows. And we are begging you to please come forward now.
It's hard to watch those, hard to imagine what her family is going through. We'll continue to follow the very latest on that story. And we also are following up on the latest from Mexico. What we know this afternoon is that most airports are operating back on schedule. Everything is open back up in Mexico as far as the airports go. The U.S. State Department has also narrowed the shelter-in-place advisory that it laid out. So U.S. citizens in Puerto Vallarta and the surrounding areas in the cities of Jalisco and Nayarit are still being encouraged to remain in place. The Mexican government saying there are still some road blockages and criminal activity. This is related, of course, to a Mexican military raid over the weekend that killed a cartel leader, one of the biggest drug lords in the world. He was known as El Mencho. So the Mexican government saying today that The situation, they're calling it returning to normal in multiple areas. Again, airlines back up and running as far as we can tell. We saw Sun Country Airlines sent a couple of planes to Puerto Vallarta today to get some passengers who had their flights canceled back home. And then we checked Delta's website a short time ago, and there was a flight that left MSP this morning at about 9:21 for Puerto Vallarta, scheduled to arrive at about 1:15. So any moment now or within the last 10 or 15 minutes that could have landed in Puerto Vallarta. A return flight from Puerto Vallarta is scheduled to come back to MSP. That's scheduled for about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So we'll keep on top of it and see what's happening. All right. Well, we want to also take you to what's happening on the East Coast. A full-on big dig. Obviously, millions of people starting to peek out. Let's listen into Fox Weather right now, as they've just got a great handle on what's going on.
Clearly, they've got a lot of work to do with the sanitation department. There's only 3 sanitation garages, though, in Staten Island. It's one of the bigger boroughs as a whole, less densely populated, but more mileage to cover. And just to put that into perspective, in Manhattan, they have 12 sanitation garages, and up in the Bronx, they also have 12 sanitation garages. So some of that is a function of they just don't have the manpower. In response to that, though, I did see a couple of posts online saying that they enlisted 45 extra vehicles to help with snow removal, in addition to what they already have in Staten Island, and they also are enlisting the help of some private contractors to get the job done. But it's going to be a big job, to say the least, and this really isn't even the worst of some of these roads. Staten Island, very hilly, for those of you who are unfamiliar. So go up those roads. I don't even think you can go up these roads, and that's kind of the situation that we're looking at right here.
And I think sometimes too, Haley, you know, the arteries of some of the major interstates and the highways are usually taken care of first, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things are back up and running, because now you have neighborhoods and back roads that where most people live, right? In order to get to that main thoroughfare, they have to have their roads cleared out. And I mean, I'm just amazed at looking what's behind you, because I know that's just one street of many, and it's not just Staten Island. I know parts of the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and then also too, you take yourself out of the 5 boroughs, the footprint of this snow, so many neighborhoods to get in touch with. I mean, this is going to be a slow process nonetheless, and so hopefully we can see some improvements by week's end. But thanks for the update there. We're going to check back in with you, Fox Weather meteorologist Haley Meyer in Staten Island. A historic blizzard slowly starting to melt away, depending on where you are, of course. But not before we have another round of snow for the Northeast. We'll talk about it next.
Another round of snow for the Northeast. My goodness. So she was in Staten Island, where it looks like that's where they got the most amount of snow in that New York City area. 29 inches, 19.7 inches in Central Park. And this was an interesting little number that I found. Central Park has seen 42 inches of snow since December 1st. That's crazy for New York City. A lot of snow for those folks. We had a little bit of something happen late this morning, kind of right before our show started in that 10 o'clock hour or so. Keith Marlowe is going to tell us a little bit about that. Things look like they're cleared up on the roads now for the most part, and then a little bit more about our forecast, and then we'll take a break and be right back.
A little bit of a rain-snow mix, a freezing rain-snow mix than anything else, comes rolling on in here just on time between 9 and noon this morning, and made for a mess. Most of it coming on into the 9 and the 10 o'clock hours this morning. Temperatures rising, but still frozen when that came through. So we saw kind of an icy rain and a sleet pop through the metro and cause just a heck of a time on roadways. All sorts of accidents, as it was a fast glaze. Really, most folks saw between 20 and 40 minutes of actual precipitation. Relatively brief and not a lot of moisture at all, but it was enough, as we were used to driving on dry roads, and then all of a sudden it was just this little glaze. Temporary winter weather advisories were posted for the metro, technically not meeting criteria for a winter weather advisory, which would be 1/10 of an inch of ice, and far from that. But technically, an advisory is a heads up by the National Weather Service, and because of the number of accidents obviously caused on this, I mean, it's a worthy heads up, I guess, as we go on out. It's certainly worthy of a note by all means. It's the National Weather Service's way of saying, waving the red flag and going, hey, pay attention. There's stuff going on here. Now, it's a weather to-do list today, as we had rising temperatures in place. We got that out of the way, as they're continuing to rise. As we went through our quick brief icy mix snow combo this morning. We've gotten that out of the way. That's pushed out of the way of the Twin Cities. Now temperatures are thawing or starting to thaw depending on your location across the southern half of the state. Northern Minnesota, you're never talking about a thaw. Your snow's moved out. Most folks up north, 1 to 2 inches, except for the Arrowhead. A little bit more than that, certainly, across the tip of the Arrowhead. And now the next part of our phase for the rest of the afternoon is to cap out, finish our thaw, and have temperatures start to fall with breezy conditions and a clearing sky for the rest of the day. And then we'll continue to freeze up overnight tonight and go all the way down to the single digits and teens. And that's going to set up for a quiet but chilly day tomorrow with plenty of sunshine for your Wednesday. And then we bounce back again. Well, amazing end of the week because we are going to warm up quite nicely to the 30s and 40s into our day on Thursday and Friday. I'm going to take you back a little bit as we had that little quick hit come on through here into the 9 to 11:30 range here in the Twin Cities. By noon, most of that was pushed out of the way, and now between noon and 2, we're looking at that getting farther away from us. Overall, we're breaking up that sky as we go on into the 2 o'clock hour, and again, temperatures starting to fall off after capping out into this thaw zone that we're currently trying to live in now, and again, we'll be back below freezing as we go on into our evening commute. We should be falling below freezing depending on your location, maybe as early as 3, if not certainly into the 5 o'clock hour. Some of us, again, central and northern Minnesota, you're not touching that zone at all. Now, as we continue through the night tonight, we'll chunk up that cloud cover, go down to the single digits and teens, certainly with sub-zero wind chills. The wind will relax. Then sunshine and a high only in the 20s tomorrow. Our next system is a snowmaker for parts of South Dakota, down and into Iowa, and we could see a pocket, a little snow shower, or maybe just some flurries in southwestern Minnesota for Wednesday night, maybe into early parts of Thursday, but that sets the stage for just decent weather overall for our Thursday and Friday. So an icy morning mix, check, out of the way. Rising temperatures, check. Continuing and then just kind of thawing out today and breezy with falling temperatures for the rest of the afternoon. And then again, just that patchy sun emerging back at the back half of the day. Highs right now into the next couple of hours in these low to mid 30s and then falling off. Going down to 11 tonight with a sub-zero chill, with a chilly breeze that starts to relax, and then chilly sunshine for your day on Wednesday with a high around 22 degrees. Back to the upper 30s on Thursday. A couple of passing clouds in the morning and then sunshine in the afternoon. Mostly sunny and 48 on Friday. Then a couple of flurries on Saturday as we say goodbye to February with a high of 24. Keeping it chilly on our first day of March in the 20s, and then a rebound into the early days of next week.
And welcome back to All Day Live. We want to take you back out to the state capitol in St. Paul, where a parent-led coalition says that they are trying to find nonpartisan solutions to keep children safe in schools and places of worship. The Annunciation Light Alliance is the group, and it is formed by a group of parents from Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis. Of course, created
because of the ice and parking. We're having some issues getting our lead vocals here, so just bear with us.
Looks like it's going to be a couple of more moments. So again, this was created after the deadly mass shooting, of course, that took the lives of Harper Moisky and Fletcher Merkel, injured dozens more. Right now, this is a gathering, and then there is, we understand, going to be a community sing-along in the Capitol Rotunda that we are waiting for, and that we are told will be featuring some Annunciation students. And the backdrop to all of this is lawmakers at the Capitol today and for many days moving forward will start discussing a large package of gun violence prevention bills. Specifically, these are proposed by Governor Tim Walz. They were laid out this morning. So sounds like they're going to get this going here in just a couple of minutes. And while we wait, the other piece of what's happening today is a visual piece. It's an art installation. And you guys, if you want to keep that up, you can, and then I can go to it, or just let me know when you want me to head back to it. But I was just going to mention the art installation. Not so much an art installation, symbolic. There are 60 empty desks that are sitting outside of the state capitol. If you drive by, you may see them. There are little lights on them, and they are to represent the 200 children who have been killed by gun violence in the U.S. since 2021. There's that, and then, yes, this is some video. Thank you, guys. This is some video of that installation, and Annunciation parents are the ones who put this together. It'll be there for a couple of days. And then on the inside of the Capitol, what you don't see are the two desks representing Harper and Fletcher, the two children who were killed on August 27th. So this is the installation that'll be there for a couple of days, all part of a couple of days of some very heavy conversations, the beginnings of some very heavy conversations that are going to be had here over the course of this session, this legislative session about gun violence. All right. And they were going to get this going here in a minute or so. What we might do is listen in on another hearing that actually is in the same lane, and this is an Education Finance Committee where they're hearing some bills that would increase money for safer schools, specifically making that money available to charter schools, non-public schools, and tribal contract schools. So why don't we listen to that for a few minutes while we wait.
Likely paying taxes in Minnesota when they grow up and working for our state. So went through most things that I want to. I appreciate everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present in front of you too.
Very good. Thank you to Mr. Olson, Mr. Ryerson. Apologize for the technical difficulties. Members, I'm going to try to keep us moving. So,
Mr. Chair, is it okay if I have a brief moment?
Mr. Representative Quam, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to members. In my area, there are small districts that cooperate for special ed, and they have a different facility built and a different site. The tribes have schools. There are ones that are outside of the current law, and hardening those schools is needed, because multiple times I have heard in the writing and the research after a mass shooting of where they specifically picked a soft target. None of the school facilities in our state should be a soft target. So these funds in this bill will go to make those school sites hardened and safe for our students, whether it's on tribal lands or it's a cooperative between multiple small districts. When we overlook them, we are missing what we should be doing. So I thank the author for this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Quam. Representative Hudson, then Representative Green, closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So very much appreciate the testimony we've heard today and the member comments. Particularly appreciate Vice Co-Chair Bakeberg's focus on prioritization and resources. And we do have some trouble with those concerns around here. The 2 points that I want to make is, number one, I think a lot of times around here, folks around the room will use the same word, but they mean different things. So when we use the word safety, We've heard a broad definition of it today, and we've heard what I believe is the narrow intention of what we're talking about with safety with this bill. Do I concede that emotional regulation, a sense of well-being, mental health services, that all of those things fall in the category of safety broadly? Absolutely, of course. But when we talk about priorities, my God, your physical safety, like physically being safe from a deadly assault, should be the priority. That's what this bill focuses on. And the other point that was addressed, I believe it was by Representative Vernig, about the lack of this not being ideal in the sense that it's a competitive grant. Only certain schools are going to be able to get it. Others will not. We're not treating people fairly. That sentiment. Listen, we all had the moment in school when the teacher said, if you're going to bring chocolate, you need to bring it for everybody, right? That's a very noble sentiment when you're bringing candy to the classroom. When you're talking about keeping kids safe, I'd rather protect some kids than protect none because we're waiting until we have the ability to protect them all.
Thank you, Representative Hudson. And Representative Green, quick closing comments, then back to the bill author.
Yep. Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you so much, Author, for bringing the bill forward. I agree with what I've heard here from, my colleagues. I agree that this is a bipartisan issue, that the safety of kids in our state is a #1 priority. I also agree with evidence-based, what Representative Bennett talked about. And so one of the things that is concerning about this bill and the way that it's written is it's pretty prescriptive with how we harden schools. And I think that to you, Representative Hudson, who talked about the definition of safety, that's been worked on from input from groups all across our communities in terms of school communities. And so we're hearing this is, part of the puzzle is perhaps changes to facilities. It's also more supports within the school for students. It's also making our kids safe with less guns on the street. And so there's a big comprehensive approach that we need to take with this. And so I just wanted to mention that because I think when we start to prescribe things and look at it a little bit in a silo, then we lose sight of all the other important things that need to be part of this discussion. So
we are going to pivot from this to the state capitol, where I believe we are hearing from the father of Harper Moisky, who is one of the children who was killed in the Annunciation shooting. I believe this is her father. Let's listen.
Really important decisions, goodwill as they go in and do so, right? This is a nonpartisan event where we're singing together and wishing them well as they make decisions that impact all of our lives. So thank you very much for being here. The way this is going to work today, hopefully, right, and thank you for all participating, is we're going to sing a song. We're going to have a few folks here helping us that are very talented singers, kick us off for a few seconds, because I'm sure some of us are rusty. And then hopefully that kind of quiets out and the rest of us just sing. So we have 7 songs today. I think most of you have the lyrics. If not, we have QR codes out. After each song, we're going to pause, and I'm going to hand the mic to one of the individuals with a white sheet of paper that has some names of the legislators that are in session. They're going to read 10 of those names, and then we're going to jump into our next song, rinse and repeat until we get through the list. So most of these songs are pretty fun, as you can see, and you probably already know many of them today. And our first one is going to be Here Comes the Sun, and we have Mary Beth and her good friend teeing us off. So do we have the music ready?
Okay, sure. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, I say, it's all right. Little darling, is there no long and lonely winter? Little darling,
All right.
And welcome back to All Day Live. We're going to take you back out to the Capitol where there's a parent-led coalition trying to find, they say, nonpartisan solutions to keep children safe and schools and places of worship safe. It's the Annunciation Light Alliance. They're going to get ready to sing here in a second. They have about 7 songs. It's a group of parents from Annunciation Catholic Church, created, of course, after the deadly mass shooting that took the lives of Harper Moisky and Fletcher Merkel, dozens more. So these are parents and also some students from Annunciation and community members. Let's listen in.
Or you can start speaking up. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way the words do when they settle like your skin. Kept on the inside, no sunlight, sometimes the shadow wins. I wonder what would happen if you say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. Let you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. What you see you, I just want to see you. Just want to see you. Want to see you be brave. Just want to see you. I just want to see you. Just want to see you. Want to see you be brave. Everybody's been there. Everybody's been stared down by the enemy, falling for the fear and unspirit, down to the mighty. Don't run, just stop holding your tongue. Maybe there's a way out of this cage where you live. Maybe one of these days you can let the light in. Show me how to get brave and say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly,
We've got community sing along at the state capitol. Continuing on here as we round out All Day Live. Over the weekend, we all learned that 25-year-old Rondale Moore, a member of the Minnesota Vikings for a short time last year, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in his hometown of Indiana. That's according to police. We know that last summer during the preseason opener, Moore suffered a severe knee injury returning a punt, and he never played again. But we don't know Moore's state of mind, and we wouldn't speculate on that. There is, though, maybe a conversation that we thought could be helpful for anyone who's had an injury that has changed the trajectory of their life. You may remember Blake Prohl. He's a Vikings player who suffered a season-ending injury a couple of years ago, just as his career was taking off. He ended up leaving pro football, found a career in music, wanted to catch up with him. Here's our conversation. You're one of the first people I thought of because while we can't connect any dots in Rondell's situation, we understand that he died at this moment that we're talking of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And there's been a lot of conversation on social media around struggles when you are injured as an athlete, particularly a professional athlete. Tell us a little bit about your story and the impact that that had on you at that time early in your career.
Of course. Obviously, like, it's very person to person. Everybody, has a different experience in this whole world. But for me, I can speak on that. And as you know, playing in the NFL is the highest of highs, especially, I'm sure everybody who's made it to the NFL really dreamed of that from a young age. And I think having that taken away from you can be very, very isolating, especially when you're far away from home, as most players are. If you're close to home, that's very lucky, but most players, go across the country and kind of say bye to their families or, college roommates and whatever that is. So it's already a time that's hard enough. And being taken away, the one escape, which is playing the actual game, is when, like, a lot of the struggles really happen for me. I spent my whole life dreaming of playing in the NFL, and right when I reached the pinnacle of being able to, being handed that opportunity and having that stripped away, it was, I always say isolating, just being far from home and not being able to, go over to, give your mom a hug or your dad or people that you know very well. And I don't know Rondell that well, but I do know that he, I think he jumped around a little bit in the league, which is also very isolating. And I know how that feels. And I think for me, the biggest thing that helped me was finding and kind of talking outright to my teammates. And Pico at the time, Les Pico, was a great person for me to talk to. And I think the biggest thing for me was also my faith aspect and making sure I was just being wide open. It's such a hard topic to talk about without me getting emotional, honestly. I kind of have erased that part of my memory from just because it was such a dark time. I'm sweating even thinking about it. Music for me was healing, and you have to turn to something, especially in that time. So finding a hobby, finding people that you love in this new area, asking you to go to dinner. I know for me, I lived by myself, so I would always ask my teammates. I'd be in the facility for longer than usual, and I would just reach out to people and create those relationships. Relationships were everything for me. For me, it was guys like Adam Thielen and some of my teammates and rookies. And yeah, I don't know. It's a very complex conversation, and every person is different. But for me, I found my strength in music and faith and my teammates.
Yeah. Do you think you could talk a little bit about, and again, just wanting to reiterate that, really not talking about Rondell's situation specifically, but for you and generally speaking for professional athletes, do you think that people realize the layers of pressure that beyond what you put on yourself, but, we have fantasy football leagues, we have social media, we have bosses who, at the end of the day, you're commodities, right? You got to perform. So can you just talk generally about what would you want people to know about those layers?
Yeah, honestly, that's a great point. Probably one of the most important points is obviously with social media these days as well, being in the spotlight. People don't realize, like, as a professional player in any professional sport, we already have enough discipline and deprecation on ourselves because we got there by being perfectionists. We got there by being disciplined. So, like, seeing hateful comments or, we already see ESPN if we dropped a ball, or if there's already so much pressure on our backs in general, we carry all of that already ourselves. So when there's thousands of fans and people around the world, belittling, players or I guess what I'm trying to say is like fans, like be a little bit more mindful of what you say on social media to players. You know, they think like, oh, they won't see this. A lot of times like players are actually reading comments and watching things on social media and watching ESPN, and like it can be really, really hard. And honestly, this is a different parallel. But when I was on American Idol, it's a similar thing of like your video gets posted and maybe you didn't love your performance, because like most time you're a perfectionist, and I would go through every single comment. And I know all of my other friends who are contestants would sit in their rooms and get very emotional and see all how hateful the comments are. And I think this is a perfect scenario where it's one of the saddest things and something that you never wish upon anybody, but just really talking and having the conversation that like this is a unifying situation where we should realize like how important our words are and what we say to each other, and lifting people up, even if you don't know them, whether it's an athlete that you don't know or who you look up to, if they, you know, fantasy football, all that, like, yeah, it's all just a game at the end of the day, but these are real people, you know what I'm saying, and real emotions. They have real families, real kids, real wives. And I think just focusing on lifting each other up and realizing that it's just a game, and like having perspective on what life really is about. And that's, you know, loving each other and being positive with each other. And we can have fun and be competitive, but let's make sure that we like watch what we're saying and commenting on things and stuff like that.
Like, really appreciate your time today and your really unique insight into being injured at the sort of prime of your career as you're just starting out and having to navigate all of that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We hold them in hope. All right, we want to take you back to the Capitol for just the last minute of our show here as the parents of Annunciation students are talking about what they're going to do at the Capitol this year, and it looks like they're going to be singing here in just a moment. Let's listen.